presenter, last day. What a great spot to be in. It wasn't right after lunch at least, so thank you for coming. I have had probably almost all of you ask me, what in the heck is someone from Texas doing here in Vegas at the Northwest? And I have to point it right back to, what are y'all doing in Vegas? I mean, what in the world? So many of you have already heard my answer. The maps showing where Texas is are completely exaggerated. We're much larger on a real map than what it shows. We encompass most of the United States with other states around the periphery of Texas. I'm kidding. That's not the case at all. Texas is actually much larger even than that. So, yeah. With all that said, we have done some pretty big things recently in the College of Engineering with Texas A&M University. This is in a little town called College Station. It got its name because that's where the train stopped to let people off to go to college. College Station. They really had a station there. Yeah, you wondered. Now you know. The station does not exist anymore. So we have around 66,000 students, and we've had a lot of cool and kind of innovative things. I love the way they can make a beautiful building look even more so in the evening with all these lights on it. Photography does amazing things. That's not even the right building on the left side, but this new building we've done on the right side is called Zachry. This building existed about 45 years before this. We opened it up this past fall. It took around somewhere between 4 and 5 years for us to build the new facility. We left the shell of the old building there and then added on to it, both to the side and over the top. There's a bridge. Took about a year to get the nuclear reactor out and relocated, not kidding. So we have a nuclear engineering program. They had to put it somewhere, right? So you put it in the building with the students. So it is one of the largest active learning facilities in the country. There are 39 active learning classrooms in this space where we can teach around 2,700 students at any given moment. Largest class sizes that we have are 100 students by edict of the dean. So she completely believes in smaller class sizes. She would prefer it to be 50, but that's not quite how everything works just yet. There's also this initiative that drives us to create something like this, and it's called the 25 by 25, and that's to have 25,000 students within the College of Engineering by the year 2025. We are on track. We're currently sitting at about 20,000 students, and we gain about 1,000 per year. So, all of our students are not located at the College Station facility. There are 12 other satellite universities throughout Texas as well that make up the Texas A&M system. So this place that we've put together, it's about 525,000 square feet. If you wanted to try to figure out how big that is, if you took two 747s end to end, stuck them together, it's about that length from one end of the building to the next. If you're one of those that likes to get in your 10,000 steps each day, that happens quite easily. It's a massive facility, but we've also got a very large student population. In our very first semester, we ran 13,000 distinct students through the facility, with many of those having repeat classes, so it's a large number of people. At any given time, we'll have anywhere between 4,000 and 8,000 people in the building at one time. So it's a lot to keep up with. Today, you're going to hear more about what we did in our learning studios, or if you want to think of them as classrooms, you can call it that. We had a big challenge, though, with this facility. There was this program of requirements. You hear this POR sometimes when you talk about new buildings, and as part of that, someone has laid out these requirements that the facility is going to have. And our dean had a lot to do with that, and some of that had to deal with how we're going to teach to and from other locations to or from this facility. So for instance, if we have ocean engineering classes, we have a facility in Galveston, which is right along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. And so we have the main ocean engineering department in the College Station location. So there's a lot of interaction between those two facilities, and it's not just that one, but it's South Texas, Houston, Dallas, El Paso, and the other locations. So we had to come up with every single room being able to have this ability to contact and be contacted by these remote locations, teach live classes with as much interaction between the two as possible. And sometimes we even wanted to consider beyond just having two, but even 3 or 4 of these places together at one time. We also wanted to convert, not really convert, but create all active learning spaces within this building, and that's what has happened. We were traditional classes almost all the way. You could count on one hand how many active learning classes engineering had prior to this building. So in 2015, I got together with another bunch of people from all different kind of walks of life. We had department heads, faculty, facilities, communications, IT. Yeah, I think that's the bulk of the people. So quite a number of different groups represented, facilities, if I didn't say that. So a lot of different people were there to have their voices heard, to be able to help design what was going to happen within the building along as far as technology goes. So when I got into this, I walk in and they tell me we're going to build these 30+ rooms. It's going to have cutting edge technology. Your budget's $3 million. And I went, what? $3 million for 37 cutting edge rooms? That's not going to quite cover it, okay? That will pretty much get you projectors and some computers in that many rooms, you know, with a little bit of AV thrown in to go with all that to make it happen. So that's where we began, but nobody had really thought through the question of what is this going to look like? And so we took a really great approach, in my opinion. We didn't go out and find a lot of vendors and find something, oh, that's kind of cool, let's throw that in, and oh, this is a cool technology, let's throw that in, try to put it all together and make it work. Instead, we approached it with the idea that we wanted to create something that had never been seen before, not so much for just because it's never been seen, but because we wanted it to work the way we wanted it to work. In other words, we wanted to control the future, not let the future control us. All right? So that means we had to go out and come up with the ideas of how these rooms would work, and then it came to me to go make it happen. I still remember sitting in one meeting where my boss, our CIO, he said, "Oh yeah, we can make this thing happen." And I just looked at him like, "Are you crazy?" But nobody saw me look that way. But afterwards I said, "So how are you planning to make this happen?" He said, "I'm not worried. You always seem to come up with some good way to do something like this." So, you know, that's kind of how these meetings went. I've got a dream, now make it happen, okay? So we had a lot of interesting discussions about this. Now, you're gonna find that I'm not following along with a lot of this. I happen to think that y'all can read all this. Y'all can read it while I'm talking. I'm boring enough to where you've got something else to do. You know, when I grew up, we didn't have cell phones to read when we were eating breakfast. We had cereal boxes. So this is like you getting to read the cereal box while digesting what I talked to you about, okay? This lady happened to be the head of our committee, and she's really kind of cool. She's the department head for computer science. Really sees things pretty differently. When you think about putting in technology in a classroom, how many of you have a problem with thinking about, now what are we going to do in 5 years, 10 years? And what's it going to take to make that happen? Okay? Now, some of you deal with the practical every day. You're thinking about, well, I'm going to have to core drill the floor and put a hole through it, and I'm going to have to cut out parts of walls, and I'm going to have to run new conduit and all this kind of stuff like that. But what we've tried to do is develop a facility with a lot of flexibility. We put in low-profile raised floors. We've put in pre-existing conduit throughout the walls. We've got our networking closet actually in the room. Each room has its own networking closet. So every single room has the potential to grow beyond what it is now with any new technologies that come along with very little effort to make it happen. Okay? So looking at that and considering that we have to be able to teach from locations outside of the university, teach 2 other locations, have someone from industry teach into a space, for instance, from Intel out of Baltimore or Seattle, Boston or Seattle. We have to have ways for them to come into our room without showing up physically and teach the class. We had to have collaborative type spaces, but we also had to have systems that allow us to have as close to it. T1V on this long project. So in the summer of 2016, we approached a company called T1V to talk to them about developing this idea that we had for our classrooms. And that was an interactive system, and interactive because when we looked at how we're going to deliver content to other locations, just writing on a whiteboard and pointing a camera at it wasn't going to cut it. There are certainly some other ways to do it as well, but when we look at all the other things that we're going to try to do in this space, it made sense to do that, but we needed to be able to capture the content on the screen, save it for the next time. We had to be able to have multiple pieces of content that we could share at the same time. For instance, during a typical group assignment, on these large displays that you see around the room, the instructor may have information from their PC showing there. But they may want to give the students some other content, perhaps at the tables. So we began working with a little company called Steelcase to develop a brand new table. It was really cool yesterday. I was in another presentation and they showed pictures of the new table. Steelcase would not put our name on the table, so didn't get anything out of that. But it is it's now made it into one of their product lines, so it's a pretty cool table. And I'm going to show you a video here. I believe this is actually the video. Let's see. So I've turned the audio off. But this is kind of crazy what this room does. So you've got these displays around the room, but imagine yourself being able to walk in and push this one button and all these displays come up out of tables. 25 tables in here, y'all. Okay? You just converted your room from a very open type classroom, ready for discussion with your faculty, to now in just about 20 seconds, you've transformed it into a very collaborative, active learning type environment where people can get to participate and do different things. So in this particular case, you'll see someone working at this Think Hub made by T1V, and here are the students and the professor working at a table while they're sharing their content to the screen wirelessly. Think Hub is pushing content to the tables. The tables can be sent up to the screen. By the way, all 25 tables can be displayed up on the main screen at one time. You can even push those out one at a time out to the other table. I mean, there's this whole possibility, but the cool thing is this is all software based. There's no switching and all that kind of stuff happening. There's a single data cable that goes to each table to make all of this happen. Okay, this is fully streaming content over IP. essentially. Okay, so this uses a lot of the Mac type computers to make a lot of this happen. And by the way, as I'm going today, if you see something and want to ask me about it, stop me. Let's talk about it, okay? There's a lot to see and a lot to know. This is one of the simplest rooms to use, and it's probably one of the most complex rooms to use as well. It's been made simple for our faculty to be able to walk right in and start it up and make it go. And then it's also just as hard to get lost into all the cool features it has. But apparently, depending on your age, if you're young enough, you can walk right in and use it without anybody showing you anything. Okay? All right. Any questions so far about what you've seen? Nobody wants to ask me about how faculty got ready for this, right? Yes, sir. Yep. So T1V makes their own app, and there's instructions on the screen as how to get that app. It's free, doesn't require admin privileges to install, and so it goes on, and you connect via IP. Okay. Now here's the cool part. Who has thought about perhaps when they do group work, having a group member that's not in that physical location at the moment, but somewhere else? You've thought about it, maybe doing it. Use Zoom. Okay. So the displays that you've seen allow a person to connect remotely without any kind of VPN. If you want to talk to me after about how that happens, we can. But you can have up to 32 people to connect to these displays, either to view them or to share content. Now, it'll only handle 4 people at a time on those small table displays. So it's really cool how we can bring in those other students, but we still use things like Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting, whatever you want to use to have the audio and video of our students. But when it comes to sharing the content of screens, they'll use the actual display itself, especially right there at the table so everybody can see what's going on. So we are able to bring together students from across Texas and in some situations even halfway around the world, okay, to participate in our classes. Let me throw some more text up here for you. How this all got started though, I told you we had a lot of meetings. We went through scenarios of how the tables would work. We went through scenarios of how the technology would work. Found this company. They took 2 products they had and melded them together and came up with this ThinkHub Connect solution. We put together a prototype space to start testing it. At the same time, we're in the middle of having meetings with the faculty, talking to them about what we're thinking about doing, getting ideas, coming back from them. We have town hall meetings with students and staff and faculty. We collected all of their feedback, all their thoughts. You know, there were things like, I don't want to use an interactive screen because once I write on that area and I have to move it to a new section of this canvas space, the students can't see it anymore. So we had to come up with a solution about how we would solve that, and we did. Okay. Writing on the screen. When we first approached this company, all you did was write with your finger on the screen. Did you know if you write with your finger for about 15 minutes, the tip of your finger starts feeling numb? You ever done that? Well, I found out pretty quick. This is horrible. Who loves to have styluses that you go buy and they cost about $100 or $200 a piece and they get in somebody's pocket and they walk off with it? Anybody ever dealt with that stuff? It's like, I don't want to go there. So again, I talked to T1V. I said, I want a stylus. I want it to be cheap. I don't want to have to spend a large amount of money on it. And a week later, they came back and handed me a little plastic pen and said, how would this work for a stylus? I said, you tell me, how would this work as a stylus? And they had set it up with some infrared emitters around the edge. And I'm now able to take this pen, just any pen, actually any sharp object at all. We've invited people to bring their knitting needles, plastic only, please, or any other objects that you want to write with to use. And that's what they write with on the screens. But that also gives us the ability to have a real eraser. So anything that's about this size, you can put it up on the screen and erase with it because it detects the size of that object. And if it's your finger, that means it's going to just see it as moving objects around on the screen, right? So again, we began working with the company to develop what would work well for our faculty and for our students. So here you actually see our prototype space with some actors. These are not real students. Some company brought in actors to stand in and look like they're learning. So it was an interesting day. I don't know if y'all have ever done these video shoots, but it's really interesting. Anyway, so ThinkHub. When you start using this thing, you realize it's a whole lot different than most interactive systems because it becomes this place for you to host all sorts of media. Okay, so it could be image files, video files, and PDFs. All right, it could also be computers, either connected by a hardline connection or wireless connection. And by the way, each of those connections have touch capability. So if you're running a Windows OS or Mac OS and you connect it via wired or wireless, you can walk up to the screen and control it by touch. Okay, pretty cool, right? How many computers can I have on the canvas at one time? Hadn't found out yet. We've had at least 15 before, so it's still going. But I want you to think about this too, that I'm going to go back here just a moment. Each of these tables, when the displays come up, each display becomes one of the devices along a bottom tray that you can pull up onto the screen along with your computers. So imagine you've got all of these objects floating around on this ThinkHub canvas up there in the front. Any one of those objects, you can tap it and send it to the displays on the table, and that's called casting. But we also help develop something called dock. And dock allows us to send this through a physical video output off of the computer to surrounding displays on the room. Okay? So, in other words, I can take an object on the canvas and send that by itself to the room itself. Okay? We'll hit some more pictures in a moment. I'll bring those up. This is what we have in the space. It's 1,800. I'm not going to read all that. You can see all of it. Common labs. We've got carts. By the way, our common labs, they can hold mobile conferences with industry partners. They may be working on something that they'll be doing in the industry, and so either there'll be someone from industry will be watching, or they're going to be talking to that group. We've talked about some of the tables and things. This was our artist conception of what this was going to look like at one time. Our rooms do have a lot of glass around the outer edges. And this is kind of cool because when we do training for our faculty, we teach them how to use a lot of the basics, but we also show them some of the more advanced pieces. Okay? A lot of them want to use just the basics. But as time goes by, they're walking around seeing other faculty using some more of the advanced features as well. And so as they do that, they begin to learn how they might change their classroom. And they kind of remember what we showed them. They look and see what other people are doing. And so it's really worked out well for us. A lot of people said, well, that can be very distracting for the students and the faculty. But what we found is after about a week, nobody notices anymore. I can stand at the glass like this and nobody's even going to turn around and look at me, right? This is a real image from one of the classrooms. This guy, he's got a PowerPoint and he's showing it on every display in the whole room. Not the way I envisioned using it, but it's exactly the way we told him, step in and use it how you're comfortable. Okay, so he does. And our students love being able to have this display right there at the table. Probably in a class where I would have taught a PowerPoint, I would have all those displays down. We'd be having a discussion, right? Let me find out real quick. What kind of jobs do y'all do? Are you instructional designers, work with the real AV, or what do you do? What about you? Okay. All right. How about you? Very similar. Anybody different? Yes. Okay, great. Yes, sir. Librarian. So, you know, when I hear librarian, I'm a little older than some of you, not everybody in the room, but anyway, all I remember is walking into the library and there's all this drawers full of these cards, and you have to figure out where in the heck your book is, somewhere in that big facility, right? And it used to scare me to death to go try to find a book. Now I just go buy the ebook and put it on my iPad and read it, right? So, or check it out of the library electronically. Anyway, librarian. Yeah, the library's got a lot of cool tech in them, right? A lot of good stuff. So love that. Who else? Yes. LMS. All right. Thank the Lord for you people, and you as well, right? Anybody else? You're wanting. Okay. All right. So I'm very techie, okay? I'm the only AV person in the College of Engineering. That's it, just me. I have one student worker that works for me. You wanna know why? Because we've never had that before. We always just had your IT group, and IT groups, if it's something that has power, the IT group takes care of it. Be it a vacuum cleaner, a VCR, or a computer, let's call IT to fix this. Hey, the heater under my desk quit working. Who do we call? IT, right? So AV, who takes care of that? IT. But I've actually been moved into a position to handle that. Right before doing this job, I worked on Citrix, virtual desktops and virtual apps. And I have worked on server systems, and I've done classroom design. I've developed video studios for our faculty to use. So I think they kind of saw where this was going for me and kind of put me there. Before that, I worked in the defense industry for Northrop Grumman. Now that makes sense to go from that to where I'm at today, right? So let's build missiles, and now we're going to shoot video instead of missiles. So it's been a very interesting time in my life, but I so enjoy doing some of this because it's an opportunity to impact people's lives. How many people like to impact people's lives here? Anybody? 2 or 3, 4, 5. Okay, everybody. What really gets you going when that happens? What really makes you feel good? Yeah. Yeah. And you didn't even have to have the guy come and tell you what a great thing. If you just see him do something with it and you realize he's making good, it makes you feel good, right? It's like, this is awesome. Is that true for most of you? Something like that? Okay. And you want that to happen with everything you do. What happens when they don't like what you did? How do you enjoy that? You can have 30 people tell you what a great job you've done and how they love what you've done, but one person will tell you how they don't like it. And how does that make you feel? It wipes out the other 30 that said what a great thing. Even though in your head you're going, yeah, but 30 other people liked it, but you still remember that one person. So let me set you free today. You will not please everybody. Apparently, this building, Zachry, has become this place in the universe where two opposing points come to meet and explosions happen. Because I've had people come and tell me this is the greatest, most amazing experience they've ever had in education. They can't believe they've done without it. They can't imagine the possibilities ahead of them. And of course, my head's getting a little larger every time they mention it. And then on the other side, I have the person come to me and say, I want you to know you have single-handedly destroyed education within the College of Engineering. It'll never be the same, and this has put us behind for the next 100 years. Okay? So for that guy, I got him one of the little Logitech Spotlight pointers, made his day. Things are better between he and I. He also doesn't teach in the building anymore, so that helped as well. But that's true. Sometimes you have people come to you and say, I don't like this. Well, it turns out that 75% of my spaces are not these. They exist in other locations, and I can put you into a place that fits your personality, your teaching style better. Okay? And he's there, and he likes it. It's fine. I don't expect everybody to want to come and teach in an environment like this. You want to know how many people we did training for to get them ready to come in here? Anybody want to know that? Yeah, you do. I know you do. About 460 faculty. No more than 10 at a time in our training. It was usually more like 4 to 5. You know how many trainings I did? It was a lot. I was like, oh my gosh. Do you know how many of those took our active learning training, which was optional? About 90. Okay? So about 90 know how to use the room to the fullest extent. The other 370 just use it according to whatever training and kind of how they were taught before and make it work. But what we have asked them to do is learn to do one more new thing than you've done before. Okay? So when we set that expectation for them, amazing things starts happening. They don't feel the pressure to make everything come together and work. Instead, they're constantly looking at new ways to do things without the pressure of feeling like they're being made a fool in front of the whole class. All right? So, students love this place. It's got direct and indirect lighting from outside all over. It's very bright. It's easy to see what the professor's doing. It's easy to hear them talking. Even those professors that are hard to understand, you can understand them better because they wear a microphone. We teach them. Wear a microphone even if you don't think you need it. Anybody have faculty that tell you, I don't need a microphone, I'm loud enough? Right? Do you agree with that? Not really. Where do faculty stand typically? They'll walk up to the front of the room and they're standing right here at the wall, talking to the wall and expecting everybody to hear them. And they don't. And so part of our training even goes over why you want to use a microphone. Okay? How to place it properly. This microphone should not be down here. Okay? I know the people recording right now are hating me. All right? It goes up here. Just simple things. We also talk to them about how to use technology within the classroom. We have people from our instructional technology services as part of all the trainings that will help them understand how active learning can help their class, even though most people think they can't do active learning based on their content. That's not true. So, again, we go way overboard to make sure we train, we got prepared, we developed all of this new hardware to work with our rooms, to work with off-site locations. But what about when it's time to upgrade? It's something has changed. We need something new. Did I mention that this is a software-based solution? So T1V is coming out with a new thing. If it's not already out, it's called Multi-Site VC, Video Conference. You walk up to this interactive screen. You tap a button to turn it on. It says, what session would you like to join, or would you like to create one? And if there's one already there, you tap it, and you say join. And all of a sudden, it's going to link up your camera and audio from your room to another ThinkHub in another location. You are now collaborating together on that board. Whatever you write, whatever you show, you see it on the other side. And I can move their objects around, and they can move mine. And did I mention you can do up to 10 of these at one time? Now that's kind of cool. Not only that, when the video shows up, it shows up on the sidebar, and I can drag that video onto the canvas and share that out to my displays around the room, or even to the displays at the table. I can use that within the building to join classes together, or to join classes together across the world. The AirConnect app I mentioned is also coming with a new feature that allows you to join that session from your own personal computer and share your video and audio as well. There's no logging in, you just join a session. You can have a password on a session if you'd like to keep certain people out. You also can control that ThinkHub screen. You can write on it, you can move objects from your own PC, like a Surface, for instance. You can write on it, it writes on the screen. I can be anywhere in the room. I can be over here controlling objects, determining what you're going to see. I'm writing notes up there, okay? Whatever it is I want to do, I can do it from anywhere in the space. No longer am I necessarily focused on an area of the room. We tried to get away from this whole concept of the front of the room, but we also realized putting a big screen in one spot makes it like the front of the room. So we stuck them in places where people hate. It's like if there's a column in the room, it's probably over behind it somewhere. It kind of forces people to move on out and get away from that location. This is a bit about how you can control things from your tablet. Some of the different ways you would see configurations of these view hubs, these people, or the view hub is the piece at the students' tables. So this is like a 16-person room. And of course it's scalable up to as many as you want to go. If you want to do 150, that's fine. If you want to do 24 people, that's fine. We have those as well. But what you do find is that the faculty now have the freedom to move through a room, okay? Did you know, and I'm going to just show you real quick how this works, did you know just the fact that you can move around through a room causes your retention of students to increase? Why? Because they start paying attention. Did you know this side of the room was getting a little sleepy a while ago as I stood over there? But now as I come, sorry, excuse me, I kicked him awake over here. No, I'm kidding. As I'm standing right here talking to you, what a difference that makes, right? Right? I mean, it feels very personal. And if you have your room set up to where you can walk around through it, suddenly everybody feels like they're a part of what's going on. And that's what we want to get to, is getting our faculty away from just standing in one spot, because that puts people to sleep and they don't retain information. Some studies have shown after, in typical lectures, after about 15 minutes, the brain activity of a typical student is about the same as someone that's hit that 0.08 alcohol level, right? Now most of you are going, what? I still think the same then as I do now. Well, does that say something about you? But you get the point. They're not really listening and retaining information. And if they're not doing that, then they're not going to do really well in class. And if they're not doing that, they're going to go and seek another major or maybe another school to go to. and your retention of students in your program starts dropping. So you do everything you can to help the students learn, and that's just one small piece of it. Okay. Now I want you to pay attention here. You see how my time is doing? 4 minutes. All right. What do you see going on here? Look at the details. How's the teacher teaching? Okay, he's up at, okay, you called it the front, but you're right, it's where the big screen is. What's he using to teach with? A document camera. Who said that? Yeah, good observation. Okay. Now here's the interesting thing, and I'll use this little pointer. You see this little image on the ThinkHub right here? The document camera is one of our hardline inputs into the ThinkHub system. So at the bottom tray, you'll see the document camera. You tap it and it comes up on the screen. And when that comes up on the screen, all I have to do is tap it once, and I tell it to cast. It sends it to all the tables, and I tell it to go to Doc 1, which sends it to all the displays around the room. This is what I was telling you earlier. He's got plenty of room to do other things on the main screen if he wants to. All right? He also now has this cool ability. I thought I was going to get rid of document cameras. People kept telling me nobody uses them anymore. They lied to me. They lied. First day, where's my document camera? So I had to say, okay, we'll bring document cameras in, but how can I make that experience better? What's the problem with writing using document cameras? Think about this. You're writing your notes on this piece of paper. You fill it up and do what? Slide it off to the side. New sheet of paper. Student was trying to catch those last few notes. Anybody ever go through this? You're trying to catch the last few notes and they slide off something out of the way and you don't get it all. So this happens, right? So the faculty wanted to use this. I went and talked to them. I said, did you know that when you have that image up on this ThinkHub screen, you tap one button and it captures an image of what you just had? I can now take that image of your set of notes you just had and send it to a few of the screens around the room, while you have your next new live image on other displays, maybe the ones at the tables. And now the students are able to look back at that previous set of notes while looking at your current live set of notes as well. I could even go back to the third page if we wanted to. So there's a lot of different ways. By the way, fake teacher. Okay. She had a suitcase with all these different items of clothing so she could dress up like a teacher. It was just really fun. So you see all of this stuff that happens. They're able to save sessions. They can come back the next class period, pull it all up on the screen right where they left off, and keep on going. They can send it out as PDFs to the students. Students, of course, anytime you can engage their minds during class, what a benefit. Excellent benefit. I'm done. Do you have questions? Didn't try. They seemed very happy, loved being there until I realized actors. Okay, yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Yes, it was a budget. What was the budget? So my budget for the entire building or just for a single classroom? So a large classroom was around $350,000. It's an extremely tech-enabled room. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's great. I didn't throw that in. So part of our agreement with T1V is that they monitor all of our T1V systems. They let me know when there's a problem, down to somebody unplugged a cable or I've lost connection to a display. They'll send us a ticket and we'll go take a look at it. Take care of most of them on our own. but we also have our integrator on an SLA with us. Okay, so we do a lot of the little things by ourselves, but that's why it doesn't take me and another person much. We've got other people maintaining. Somebody else. So right now, there is none because it was all built into our original building cost for 3 years. That's one of the requirements of the university, that everything is covered for the first 3 years. After that, we will negotiate that, and you'll probably, here in the next next year, we'll probably start negotiating those costs. And even determining, are we going to stick with this? What are we going to do, right? Anybody else? Yeah. If you drop down to our 48 person, that budget was around $240,000. And if you drop down to our 24 person, which it doesn't have the distance learning technology built into it, it's more around $70,000. But let me just say this, these rooms can be a whole lot cheaper and even a whole lot more expensive, depending on what you want to do with the room. So I always kind of hate the budget question, because that's based on what we're doing with it. All right, you can do so many different things, many different ways. This is in a whole lot of ways a Cadillac of a room. All right, there's really nothing you can't do in here. So that's what we were asked to create, and so we did. It's a little higher than our original $3 million budget. Rooms, yeah, there's a lot of rooms. So I invite any of you to come and visit with us, but even if you don't want to come and visit, you also have the option of doing a remote little conference, where if you want to take a look at our rooms, you yourself or some friends, we can bring you in remotely and let you see how the technology works. Just come grab my card from me and I'll get that to you. And we certainly enjoy any of you coming by. We've had many guests stop by. There's more to this building than just that. We have a huge makerspace, 61,000 square feet, multiple metal 3D printers, dozens of other the plastic 3D TIG welders. There's everything you can imagine. So down in that space, common labs that are shared between departments. You don't have a particular lab time. You just go and do your lab when you want to. All sorts of cool stuff. I've run out of time though, so thank you. And I'll be around for a while if you want to ask questions. Have a great day.